Often with this type of technology, the return on investment, the ROI, it's not a straight line calculation. And it's not obvious. What are some of the ways to overcome this, either with a stakeholder or just more generally with the project?
I'll quickly jump in because we actually have quite a few ways where we know we save money. Time is a premium for us. Damage is a huge premium, frankly, or actually liability. And so when we look at, okay, this might cost 30 or 20 or even $5 million, but not doing something might cause you, even subject to litigation, frankly, when it comes down to an oil spill, as the example I just gave, is huge. So we look at that whole spectrum. That's actually how I've been selling certain elements, is doing this is a small feasibility test, and it is really small and will fail. But please, when we go big, we go big. My department, right? And so, yeah, let's not go big on Kognitiv Spark right away with having 1,000 headsets everywhere. Let's check it out. Oh my God, this is really good, or this is, And so for us, actually, it's an easy win because our capital procurement process is anywhere between 7 and 14 years, right? And we set our requirements, and it's ironclad. And we were talking about the shipbuilding strategy. Jennifer's nodding her head, and frankly, she knows that when we make changes, it costs us money. So that's why for us, it's really just failing small is dirt cheap. That's my comments.
Just want to add to that universities are really good at failing small. That's actually really a specialty for universities because relatively speaking, our costs are much less. Just pointing that out.
I'll second on the return on investment. I said earlier, finding those wins that you can bring early on those really long tails on return on investment is important. The other part of it is precisely, we often get caught up in our performance indicators and how do we actually measure success, and are we saving, hours of docking time or having more hours, in operation, and all sorts of things that are tied to that. But I often find that it is helpful to then look at the cost of not doing something. And that can often be so much more rewarding than trying to show all the pennies you're going to save and how that adds over, the lifespan of a 30-year vessel and all that sort of thing. But if you can flip it around and say, if we don't do this, here's the labor costs that, are going to be associated with that. Here's the change management costs that are going to be associated with that. And all of a sudden you can start looking at the cost of not doing something rather than just the cost of doing it in the first place.
And especially in some sort of critical areas now that we're becoming more socially aware of as well. In that sense, one of the key things that we work on, and Meiz has used one example today of an area where we're working on, which is reducing the requirement of experts to travel to sites. Those sites can be anywhere. The whole concept of what we're looking at today is not just the digital twin in the design and the build stage, but it's also how you use that digital knowledge for the support and sustainment of platforms through their lives. And we've got one client who, it's just a simple one. He knows what the reduction of his flights are, and has seen a 60% reduction in flights. Well, that's a 60% reduction in his GHG emissions. It's simple. It doesn't need to be dollars. It can be so many other things as well. And one of the questions, it was on the last panel, but it didn't. It sort of didn't get answered. And I'm not sure if Stephen's here. And it comes to that opportunity part that you were just talking about in that sense, Jennifer. And that is the opportunity that we've got to transform our nation. And particularly in terms of knowledge equity and how we get knowledge to the people that really need it. And I know that's a topic in its own right. We could have a complete day session on that. But what we're creating is really great systems that have got a direct application, in this case, into the national shipbuilding strategy. But the spin-off opportunities for us as a nation is phenomenal, and that's part of the reason that's driven us to really get our systems up and running in the High North. It's how do we get that knowledge into people who don't have access to secondary and tertiary education, or to do a professional course. It means they have to leave, their home community for the first time, and so on. So those kind of things, I think they're in the background as well. And I know that's a sort of social thing, but it's reflective of a whole number of issues that face, that face us as a nation. That retiring, I refer to it as the silver tsunami. I'm part of it. I will retire in the next few years. I take all my knowledge and expertise. I really don't have much expertise, but I take it all with me when I go. And we keep talking about it. We keep saying it's going to be an issue, but how do we collectively as a society grab hold of these technologies and apply them not just to what we're talking about today, but to how we can improve our society as a whole for the future, and make it more resilient, make it more robust, and like I said, address the issues of knowledge equity for those who've not had access to that in our remote, rural, and First Nations communities.